Good morning. I went to look at the wrong camera.
Oh, there's multiple cameras we've got going here.
You might notice I'm still on my phone. I was looking at my webcam because that's normally what is there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good morrow, good whenever you're watching this, I suppose, and good day, good night. That's us. Yes. Hi, hey to everyone watching live and also more easily chattable, although chat is clearly there. Hello, Declan. How are things? I shouldn't have asked while you were taking it.
I timed it just to throw you off. Yes. I am. I'm actually really good. Little tired, but actually pretty good. I've been kind of looking forward to today and talking about what we're going to be talking about. But how are you doing, man?
I am also. It's one of those funny things. Ask me 4 minutes ago when we roughly, or asked me just before we went live, and I was like, tired and cranky. And the amount of times my wife Kim has come home and she's like, "How are you doing?" And I'm cranky all the time. But this feels good. And I have also been looking forward to this conversation. I feel very small on my phone, which is giving me I just need to get out of my head. That's because I've looked at the stream and I seem fine. I even have a cool little cinematic bars, so we're all good.
I can make it bigger. I can make it bigger if you want to make it bigger.
No, it's all right.
Are you sure you're gonna be a big bed?
Yeah, well, yeah, but let me do some mime work. Push up the top.
There we go. And now go to the bottom.
And then
there we go.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And that's the magic of theater. So today, you wouldn't tell us, you wouldn't know it. We're talking about burnout. We're talking about creator burnout, player burnout, GM burnout. We say creative burnout because in the loosest sense, not like content creator, this kind of stuff burnout, but more because what we do at a tabletop table is draw upon our creativity. And like the old tale of the golden goose would have people believe, sometimes it can feel like I'm never going to have another golden egg. And that's what sometimes burnout, that little voice, says. So we're here to talk about it. We're here to take away its power by throwing it into the light. I wish that was true. It will.
Oh my God! I was like, oh Ben, oh no, that's not what I prepped for. I'm here to sacrifice somebody to it so that it'll leave me alone.
Fair. Yes. Yeah. That's why you got me to eat all those salves earlier.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what you do with salves,
purifying.
Right?
Yeah, purifying you. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It is. It's such a huge thing in itself, like that. And I there's a couple of key differences. Creative burnout, it kind of manifests in loads of different ways. Like Ben, you said, it's that little voice. But it's the I've kind of got creative block. I don't know where it's coming from. And then there's the I don't want to do this anymore side of the creative burnout. And I think it kind of goes a little hand in hand with imposter syndrome as well. That little sort of like, you can't do this, you're not good at this, you should stop doing this. So there's lots of this.
Burnout breaks in the back door to open the window for imposter syndrome to sneak in, for sure, and take up residence in your mind.
While anxiety is stealing your flat screen TV.
Yeah. Hey, I think I need that.
No, you don't.
Yeah. As I said out loud to my television the other day while coming back from a wedding and feeling a little tender and putting on Inside Out 2, anxiety came on the screen and I went, I'm not ready for this. But it was a joyful movie, as they often are. The general structure of today's show is we, as you probably heard on this show, and you might have seen on our social media or in Discord and stuff, we've been reaching out to people to get their opinion on burnout as well. We've been asking players, DMs, anyone we know from any of the kind of groups we're in, whether it's con groups or Discord groups or just general friends and stuff, to pile together as much information about this as we can, and also so it's not just our voices about this conversation, because I think it's fair to say it's one of those things that I would imagine it's quite a mass amount of people have felt it, but I don't think they've all felt it the same way. So we wanted to make sure that this conversation was as rounded as possible, with as many experiences and also advice and ways to kind of navigate out of the maze through it. So that is what we've done, and we'll pepper that in throughout the show. I don't know if there's anything else. We've sort of dived straight into the topic, life-wise and all that kind of stuff. We're both kind of tired from life stuff more than anything else, so that will probably come into play, because TTRPGs tend to be my release. But I don't know if there is any other preamble or setup you want to add to the mix.
Just one thing, and that is that well, actually, sorry, that's a lie. There's two things, Ben. Sorry, there's two things. I lied. I apologize. The first thing is, look, I don't think you can really talk about kind of creative burnout and not kind of dredge up kind of negative feelings. So if it's one of those things that you're like, oh, lads, no, like seriously, folks, I can't, I'm out. And you don't, it's not that Ben and I are going to sit here going, whoa, Batitus, and like take out little violins. We're going to have an honest conversation about it. But if you don't have the energy, if you don't have the spoons or the mind set for that right now, please don't stay. Like, please don't watch this. Like you can catch the VOD later on if you feel like you want to dive into it and see what we've had to say and our experiences. But you don't owe us anything to sit here, which I think might fly in the face of streaming. But you don't have to watch this stream.
Yeah. So... What are you doing? Get out there. Hug a bird. I don't know. What do people do in nature?
Walk children. So
yeah.
I guess that's the first thing, that like don't feel like you have to sit there if this is going to compound any kind of anxiety or stress that you might already have. This is kind of I think, you know, Ben and I have been doing this now for a couple of months, where it's a conversation, it's personal. We're not here to judge or anything like that. And it's all about support. So that's the main thing. Second thing is, and I think this is a nice little little sort of like, and I'm going to just go off on this little tangent, is today we'd like you, if you're comfortable in chat, like, and again, obviously, if you want to add to the conversation, if you want to maybe get our eyes and ears on a different aspect of the topic, feel free to shout it out in chat. We'll be keeping an eye on it there. But we are asking you, if you're comfortable to do so, to tell us a little bit about maybe how do you deal with creative burnout? Like, if you are a DM, if you're a player, if you're a writer, an artist, a musician, a baker, whatever it might be, how do you deal with creative burnout? Where do you, what do you go to kind of recharge? What are your processes? So if you are happy to, we would love to hear about your what's the word? My brain is not working.
Experience.
I think experience is coping mechanisms.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Alice Iris, mostly just cries.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's good.
It works. You gotta let it out.
Yeah.
That's what jogging in the rain and showers are for. No, you can also cry in the open. You don't have to hide it like I do. You crying in that shower? You'll never know.
No, I'm jogging.
We noticed from our little vox pops of the wider space that there were recurrent themes, and we're going to structure the talk a little bit around those themes. There were three that kept coming up, and we'll dip into each and every one a little as we work through them. And those themes, to kind of give the game away, was on a GM side of things, but this also applies to players. Overworking, and that kind of split into two. That was over prepping certain sessions or running too many sessions and not giving yourself a break between them. And I think that is true of GMs and players, whether you're playing in too many or whether you're prepping too much for your streams. That can be a slippery slope. And there are, thankfully, I think, pretty solid pieces of advice to avoid that when you feel it happening to you. And then the third, so if there was the two types of overworking and overprepping, the third was toxic groups. So when you're playing with people who aren't giving you the energy you would normally get out of a creative endeavor. And I'm sure it's true across other fields as well. I'm sure sports people, although I can't speak to the world, but I'm sure when they go out and you play football, you might be like, oh, this brings me so much joy. And then you play against certain teams or you play with certain teammates and you're like, I hate playing with these people. It doesn't give me that same joy and fun. So I'd imagine a lot of the topics we're going to talk about tonight apply to uh, things beyond the TTRPG space, but we'll keep ourselves contained roughly there and our own personal lives to put some handle on the topic. But for the first one, let me see if I can find the. So we posted into a bunch of groups, and I asked if everyone was happy for me to say who said things and who posted in. But Daryl has said, only time I think I burnt out, I've been running the City of Lies every Saturday for about 2.5 years without a break. We normally play about 6 hour sessions on a Saturday. So after that campaign wrapped, I didn't GM for about 6 months. And that makes a lot of sense. I think that's just long term playing and prepping and not finding the time in between to kind of recharge. And with that, let me find another one in the prepping too much. So Graham Kane has said, I think burnout occurs mainly because GMs think they need to prep too much or design an entire campaign and world before a single session is played. In that situation, I would advise a GM to never prep more than one session ahead and add details and info about the world as needed. I also find that the amount of time you put into planning a session isn't commensurate to how much fun everyone has at the table. And I think that's often that's such a beautiful insight there, which is if I prep now, everyone will have fun.
Yeah.
Except by the time you reach the table, it's like cramming for an exam the night before and ending up too tired to even get the basics right in a way. So I thought those were two very interesting kind of talks on over prepping and overworking. But that dealt with one singular campaign or session. There's plenty of more, and I'll end up, the advice does echo itself. So you'll hear those themes come up in other people's contributions as well.
I kind of resonate with both what Graham and Daryl were saying. Like, I don't know if anybody caught Monday night's episode of Beyond Horizon's Edge. I jokingly, pre the session, I had said it to the players involved and Emma, who was producing. And then at the end of the session, I kind of said it out loud. It was a huge episode. It was I figure probably the penultimate episode of the season or of this arc of the story. And I wrote 2 notes. That was it. I had 2 notes. I wrote rising tension, ? Confrontation. That was it. That was all I had. And everything else that happened on stream afterwards was through the players and the kind of shifting story that emerged. They would give something, I would add something, and so on and so forth. And after that session, I was so energized. It was the opposite sort of feeling I get sometimes. And I don't know if this is specifically because of the over prepping, but we've talked about prepping for sessions before. It's been an episode we've talked about how you prepare for a campaign and a story, so on and so forth. But I have done that to the point that I have pretty much written the beats for the session. This will happen, then this will happen, then they'll do this, and it ends with this. Bum, 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 done. And the players sit down at the table. I give them the first beat, and they're like, we're not playing the drums today. We're all whistling. But I worked really hard on this. I took time to do this, and okay, now you all obviously hate the session because what you didn't see in my notes and that I had planned we didn't get to do. I mean, what everybody else around the table is beaming. Everybody else around the table is laughing. But that over prep and the failure to act it out as written kind of takes me down like a really kind of heavy spiral. And then it's like, oh, obviously I'm not good enough at what I'm doing, and the burnout, the exhaustion of, well, what am I putting all this effort in for if they're not going to do exactly what I wrote that they would do? And yeah, it is that sort of like Graham's last line. I also found the amount of time you put into planning a session isn't commensurate to how much fun everyone has at the table. That can I have that crocheted on something? Like, that's a wonderful. It is a wonderful reminder that you look around the table at the end of the session, or even during the session, look at how your players are reacting, responding. That's the, that's the thing. And yeah, that's a biggie.
I think so. It's just such a, and it's tough because it's supposed to dip into when I'm feeling it the most, when I'm kind of dreading sitting down, DMing or playing. I'm closed off to reality in a way that says to me, I'm so in my own head that what's actually happening isn't a reflection of what I'm feeling, which makes it really difficult, I think, when you are in this sort of exhausted, burnt out place. Sometimes it can be very hard to get out of there because you're not even aware you're in there.
No,
oh, yeah?
Sorry, no, the audio cut out for me, but it didn't cut out for the stream.
Right. And that can be tough, where it's just like, it takes me a while until someone points it out. It's like, Ben, you're kind of not yourself. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is bullshit. I'm always myself. I'm the happiest man alive. You couldn't possibly think I was anything but. And someone will be like, yeah, no, you're not. Like, and it's usually only then when someone comes to me and says, you're a little bit off, that I go, oh, well, I guess I am tired. I guess I amn't kind of doing the things to the standard or quality I normally do them at. And I guess I have been like, not really snapping, but I have this terrible thing. If I'm very busy, or if I'm very in something, or if I'm very stressed, no energy goes into the emotional tone I say things in. So someone will come to me and have a conversation with me, and I'll have so little energy that I won't be sparing any of it to tone regulation, so that everything I says sounds kind of disinterested, kind of bored, a little bit sarcastic, despite the fact that internally I'm thinking, oh, this is really exciting. And this is, so I don't even have the energy to express what I'm feeling or communicating to someone. Imagine that, but your job as the DM is to express and feel and say to people, all the NPCs who will be feeling all these different things. And you'll end up, and I guess what I'm saying is, you'll end up doing yourself a disservice to both your story, to your creativity, to your collaboration, and to your players, trying to push through without addressing. And one of the reasons I thought it was really nice to do this episode and this talk is trying to help people take a bit of pressure off themselves, and kind of like, and it tends to always work for me, where I go, what am I here for? Have fun with friends, tell a great story. Am I getting that? Yes, most of the time. No, when I'm burnt out. Is that because of something that's wrong with my friends or the story? No, it's me. And I just need to like exercise, or go for a nice walk, or like do something different, or clear my head, or just sit in it for a while. Sometimes just sitting in it and just being like, yeah, okay, I guess this will pass. But knowing it will pass is the important thing. And that's sort of, I'm currently going through that, not in a TTRPG sense, but in a kind of like work and life sense. And I've reached the stage of, I see the horizon. I know this will pass, and I can see myself clawing back a little bit of control of the things that felt that were spinning out of control. And I'm like, you know what? This happens probably once a year, and always around this time of year. I've started to recognize a pattern in myself that I like, until the clocks change again. I just, my brain doesn't compute darkness and light continuing in the kind of like, sorry, the way I phrased that sounded darker than I intended it. My brain doesn't compute darkness and everyday routine and normality continuing on. And it took me my 35 years on this planet to be like, hang on a second, this is just that time of the year that gets me cranky. But good to know, good to spot.
Yeah, it's It is, and I kind of I see kind of the comments between yourself and Zool, and like Zool's advice,
Mm,
like that sometimes I have to step away from what I'm burnt out on and do something completely different. I branched out into different groups involved in different things, so I spend time with a different group and enjoy a new energy. That like uh, it is about kind of like it sounds so weird, but burnout is what we call it, but it's sort of like the batteries are on low.
mm,
Like it's that thing of like, and I think, and then what you were saying in that sort of that self awareness is that sort of it's the little warning coming on that's like 5% left, and knowing that, oh, hang on a second, this is normal. This happens to everybody that
mhm,
puts a little bit of themselves into like that, like you said, TTRPGs, their sports, their job, whatever it might be. And that sort of, oh, this is something that I really like, this is something I really love, it feels a little bit like work right now. It feels a little bit like a chore right now. It feels a little bit of a like a drain right now. And finding something else, whether that is, you know, I hate that. Like, go out for a walk, you'll feel better. Like, go out for a walk and feel better. But also sit on the couch and watch your favorite cartoon series.
mhm.
Sit down, play a board game, ring your friend, chat about chat about something, listen to music, whatever it might be. But immerse yourself in something else with no pressure to uh, create, react. Just enjoy. Just
Yeah.
um, just yeah, like, just relax. It's that easy. But just do something for yourself. Do something
Yeah.
for you that you know will bring a little bit of that energy back. And I, it's not easy, and it's not always nice to have those conversations with ourselves. Where actually, you know what, I am not in the place to do this right now. I don't have the energy. I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the creativity that's needed of me. And like I'm speaking predominantly from a DM's point of view. Um, Again, that's me shamelessly saying, please invite me to play in your games. But I,
I just need somewhere to have different energy in a different
yeah,
group in a different job, please.
yeah, and I again, like we were saying, the kind of the the general kind of vibe from the community that kind of had the time and space to share their experiences, talking about kind of that sort of that pressure, I think, um, to perform, to run the session, to engage and be switched on. Like there's so it's funny, and I don't know if anybody from any of the games that I run, except you, Ben. Um, but I don't know if any of the others. I don't know if Eiley Cyrus has left the chat or anything like that. But sometimes a player will message to say, "Hey, I can't make today. I can't do tonight,"
Mm,
and I'm like, "Cool. Honestly, please do not feel pressured. Like it's take the time, whatever it is. If it's job, real life, your own energy, your health, whatever. I 100% get it. Take the time. I don't say that to myself.
yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I the guilt, the handful of times I've like said, "Hey, actually, I'm not really in that space," because I don't want to say that. It's the thing. I don't want to say it to my friends. I don't want to say it to my table because they they look for like in my head, it's that thing of this is a great release for them. This is a chance for them to relax and have fun and unwind. So if I don't run it, then we don't get to do that. So,
Well, do I have some community advice for you?
oh no, oh no.
Because I think this is a good segue into it. And then, if I remember to, you said something really good about doing something for yourself, and I have a slight spin and add to it. Um, because I find it's good to have a toolkit, a big old toolbox of different things you can try, because the first thing you try mightn't work and then you'll feel worse about yourself. Then you try something else and you're like, ah, then you try one more thing and you're like, ah, and then you try the fourth thing and you're like, ah, perfect, this was the answer this time. But from our community chats, let me find, I think it was under, I think it was also Graham again, but also a person called Mike mentions this as well. It came up a few times. Graham and potentially Paul as well. Actually, it is Paul. Sorry, I have it here. The only advice I have is advice that was given to me by a long-time DM. Taking breaks is okay. TMs can feel a lot of pressure to be creative, but also show up every single time, even when they aren't really feeling up to it. You can sometimes play when you're down as a player, but you can never play without the... Sorry, you can sometimes play when you're down a player, but you can never play without the DM. Those two things combine to lead a lot of stress building up without you realizing it. And the worse it gets, the harder it becomes to stay enthusiastic about running games. DMs always say the goal is for everyone to have fun, but sometimes forget that means themselves too. So it's okay as a DM to take a step back and say, we'll break for a while. In fact, your games might even benefit from it. Just take a moment for yourself to recharge and get your head screwed on straight. And Paul, I think, sums it up really well there. The other side of things is, and this goes back to that gut checking I was talking about, which is, what am I here for? What are we doing? And something that helped me when I used to play tabletop games when I was a kid, and then also as we moved into homebrew, was at times when we were down a player, or even down me, or even down a couple of players, and we had to do something else. I remembered that it's like, actually, the purpose of this is for me to get to hang out with my friends, and anyone who's gotten to know us and likes this sort of environment we're bringing to the table, get to hang out too. So when you go to your gaming sessions, they don't always have to be TTRPG gaming sessions. If you ever said to us, Declan, I'm not in the mood to DM, but I am in the mood to see all you people, I'm sure all of us would turn around and go, great, let's just come and hang out and like play video games or like read books together or be in each other's space and just kind of share that moment without needing to put the cameras on or throw the recording equipment down. The other side of things is getting someone else to DM, asking them, like, does anyone else want to step in here? Because you taking a step back doesn't have to come with guilt if it comes with the feeling of, oh, wow, I've been holding on to this story for so long and I do want to tell it actually. And you're providing an opportunity for someone. So, it's your one man's trash is another man's treasure isn't the exact phrase, but I guess what I mean there is like
horses for courses.
One person's horses for courses, I don't think is quite right. I do like it though. It's very unique. Almost made up. But the one man's like negative, kind of like, it could be another person's positive. So that's always good. And then the thing I was going to come back to about doing something for yourself, this is a little trick my wife came and figured out. Because sometimes when I'm like cranky and like we're hanging out and I'm like, oh, just all this kind of stuff, and she'll be like, do you want to go for like a walk? I'm like, I don't want to go walk. And I'll be like stomping and romping around the house. And then a little bit later, she'd be like, I kind of need someone to go up to the shops further away from me to get vegan cornettos. And I'm like, I can be that person. And I'll go halfway there and I'll message and I'll be like, so what did you want? She's like, I didn't need anything. I just knew you would get, like, you needed a quest. You needed to do something not for yourself, but for someone else. Because the feeling of like feeling that way and feeling burnt out and be like, oh, I have to do this because I'm burning, all this kind of stuff, and still being in your head. And this is something I was talking about in chat to Zero44. I've been feeling tired and exhausted, and to give a little glimpse into that, but not to get super into it. As my job as a writer, I've become a little bit more responsible for things that aren't writing, which meant my writing has slipped. So like typos have appeared, and that's just gotten me like down because I'm like, oh no, clients think I'm an idiot because I've spelt this word wrong. And maybe they do and maybe they don't. That's fine. But when my standards slip a little bit, I'm like, and then it starts snowballing into everything else. In those cases, feeling like I have to go do something. So I sat down and started doodling last night, and I said to myself, I was like, this doesn't have to be good. In fact, I can change the doodle. I'm going to get loads of sheets of paper. I'm just going to keep doodling. And I doodled for half an hour to an hour. And I went, that didn't work. So I went downstairs and played video games, just as annoyed as I was starting it. But in those cases, I was trying to do something for me. And the answer for you might be doing something for someone else, totally taking your mind off your own problems, not in a way that can be taken advantage of or anything, but someone you trust and go like, it made me feel better, even though my wife didn't need anything from the shop. I still came back with stuff from the shop and we still enjoyed it. And she recognized that as a nice little way to be like, and I think it's also me. I think I like side quests. I think I like being told to do something and like, off I go. There's a lot of times in the DA WhatsApp groups, I'll message me like, I just bumped into this person and they broke down the side of the road. So I'm walking them here and we're going to do this together. And it's like, have you picked up another side quest? I'm like, yes. It's like, don't you have anything else to do today? It's like, loads. It's real fun. Yeah. I hear dragons turn up at some point, but I'm too busy. But sorry, I did want to say something for you can be something for someone else, and that can be a little trick to get you right over your own head, because it is for me.
It's funny because, and they've popped up in chat as well, so maybe they can pass it on to their other half. But I think it's weird that you say it, Ben, because you know when something is very obvious but you don't recognize it, and then someone points it out to you that you're like, oh wow, yeah, that's twice this has been pointed out to me. The first time I was like, oh, it was a joke. Now that you've said it, I'm like, oh, I think that might be real. I about a week ago, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I was after work, I was with my husband and we just popped into local grocery store and I was picking up a few pieces and we ended up in like the home sections. And he was like, oh, look at all these cool little Halloween things. Look at all these little pumpkin stuff. And I was like, oh my God, pumpkin candles. So I was like, oh, these are really cute. I'm going to buy a pumpkin candle. And then there was like a little pumpkin diffuser. And I was like, oh my God, I need that pumpkin diffuser as well. And then I was, oh my God, my two friends would love a pumpkin diffuser as well because they love Halloween. And they've probably been to the shop and they probably have one already, but it doesn't matter. They need another one. And it was that thing with no prompt, no warning, no nothing. Buying a little pumpkin diffuser and then delivering it to their house. Like ringing the doorbell, going, here you go, here's a little thing. Bye. And then that was it. It was like I handed it, I started laughing, and then they're like, what? And I was like, oh yeah, that's for you. I'm leaving. And we got in the car and we drove off. And he was like, that's a weird thing you did there. And then about a week later, I was talking to Telepathic Norwal, and they commented that their partner was like, does Declan think real life is like Stardew Valley? And that like he just randomly drops a little thing in your house. It's like, here, I love you. Here's the thing. And I walk away. And
please stamp my friendship card. I'm almost on 8 hearts.
Yeah. It's when you were talking about the thing with your wife and those little side quests, it's often like those little things that I do. I like to take care of people. I like to, I like those little things. And the other instance is a colleague of mine who we were in the same office together, and I mentioned in the last episode I really like baking. It's something that I get a lot of joy out of, but it's also something that I often use as I'm not feeling great today, I'm not feeling positive, my mind is a bit scattered, I'll bake. And following the recipe, following the stages 1 to 12, whatever it is, and ending up with a little nice thing at the end is lovely. But I actually don't eat most of it. I don't like it. I just like to make it for people. And I used to bring them into work, and a couple of months into it, somebody was like, Declan, you always bake on a Thursday, and you bring them into us on a Friday. That's really nice of you. And I was like, yeah. And we were having a nice conversation, and I said, we were in our office, and I just happened to say, well, I really like where I work. I really like what I do, and sometimes I go home when I'm a little bit tired. And I'm not in a great place. Baking kind of helps me get that out. And one of the guys that I work with, I'm going to say he started laughing, but he didn't. He wasn't laughing at me. He was like, "Okay, I have to confess something." And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I would randomly start talking about sad things on a Thursday to you, so that you would go home feeling a little bit crappy, and then you would bake."
That is like, it is malicious in a way that I can only call wholesome. Maybe if we push a few of these buttons, we'll get some chocolate buttons tomorrow.
And it's so, because like I would go home and I would be I'm not saying, you know, the guy wasn't like triggering me or anything like that, but it was that thing,
Yeah.
like, wow, life, huh? Let's listen to some stereophonics, you know, like let's listen to some Blur, let's listen to something, you know, sad. And like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't feel happy now.
That colleague has figured out your Pavlov spell.
Yeah.
Decided to ring it nonstop.
But it was that thing afterwards. It was like I bring something in and somebody would go, what did he do now? Like, nothing.
These are for me. But it's true. It's an important thing if you can spend time to learn the things that help you get out of being you and just give you space and peace. I think it's a wonderful bit of self-knowledge that you can give yourself, figuring out those things, especially when it comes to burnout. We know, Declan, baking is one of them. For me, just knowing it passes. That's like, and sometimes enough. And then all the other bits like side quests. There's a note from Robert Tedders, who it's just a very simple piece of advice. I'd advise cutting back on the time spent on the tabletop game in question and see if that helps recharge the proverbial batteries. Because the reason I wanted to bring it up is because we've talked about doing more, and I know we briefly talked about doing less, but sometimes doing nothing is also doing something. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think everyone knows what it. Yeah. And I thought that was a very sweet and concise way of saying, just take a break. Take a break. It's something I wanted to bring up about this show, actually. I'm not taking a break. I'm not trying to take a break. But I said it to Declan before the stream started, and I was saying, it's funny, we're both tired, we're both pretty exhausted. We're both pretty. We're exhausted by it. But the one thing that never feels like work is doing this. It just genuinely feels like a nice conversation where we sort of trade back a little piece of advice and information. And I think it's because when we first sat down to talk about it, we purposely set it up with, like I used to stream Homebrew every second week. It's a long campaign. We'll go into the night. I'm literally beside where I sleep, and my wife gets up very early. So if you can imagine this voice, but like 3 hours from now, and also going like, you walk into a room and you sit listening and you're trying to sleep beside that, it's not a good thing. So I wanted to make sure, as I dipped back into streaming, it was something a little bit earlier, a little bit shorter, and something that didn't feel like work. Because, and I think all the homebrew people would say this towards the end, it just started to feel like something we were obligated to finish. And that's not to say we're super like excited and getting kind of like creative jitters about the next thing we're going to do, which is really nice. And I think that's in part due to the long break we've taken. And I'll still hang out, and like we were all at a wedding together recently, which was fantastic. The aforementioned wedding that left me tender the next day before I watched Inside Out 2. So with all that, I just realized, and I think we all kind of messaged each other and I said to them, I was like, I don't want every message you get from me to feel like I'm giving you work or I'm asking something of you. I want some of the messages from your friend Ben to feel like messages from your friend Ben, and not your DM who's running the stream who wants to do the story. And they were all like, yes, I really appreciate that, because it sort of felt like we were tiptoeing around like, oh, I can't make it. That's going to be annoying. This is going to be this. We're all putting into like committing to this. And so to kind of end on taking a break is perfectly fine. And finding things, speaking of spoons, I heard another one recently that's related to D about cantrips and spell slots. So finding your cantrips, things that cost you nothing to do, is a good thing. And this show to me feels like a cantrip that will never use up a spell slot.
It's one, that was a really wonderful and kind and nice thing of you to say. Because
it wasn't for you.
Oh, okay.
It's for me, for you.
Well, I'm not going to say what I was going to say now. But
Oh, no, you will. I know you will. There's no way the thought in your head isn't coming out of your mouth.
no, it's not. I genuinely, and I think anybody who knows you, Ben, would probably agree with me, in that I genuinely, in your company, just talking to you, WhatsApps back and forth, um, are do help actually recharge me in a big way, and that's there's a as much as I wanted that to be a compliment and just kind of a kindness paid to you, uh, to turn that into something for everybody. Everybody, start messaging Ben. No,
Lay it on me. My phone number is.
I just again, the people around your table are people you want to spend time with. The prerequisite 3 hours, 6 hours, if we were to go off of some of the responses we got, are they're meant to be fun and stuff like that. But you can talk to them outside of that. You can hang out outside of that. You can engage outside of that. You can talk and share and be friends outside of the game. Be friends outside of that world, that space, and those connections that we make are a really wonderful way to plug back in to the next session. That because I genuinely the little group chats that we have for the D8 dungeon shows, sometimes I with the nature of my job, my phone isn't it's not on my person all the time. Could be in my office, it could be wherever, and I come back and there's like 17 messages, and you're like, oh god, what do one of them say now? Because that's usually a spiral of outdoing each other, and then I have a little laugh to myself and I go back into the next class or whatever it might be. And those little kind of out of the game, above the table, outside the game moments, make me then look forward to, actually, these are my friends. These are people that I genuinely love spending time with and care about, and I'm looking forward to having around the table, and are also the people that I've learned that I can say, hey, actually, I haven't got it today. I haven't got the energy, the spoons, the drive, the charge, whatever it is to do this. Can we do something else? Can we just hang like that? Can we just hang out? Can we just and I guess that kind of I wanna, if we can segue into the next.
The last of the three things? Is that what you're thinking, or the video?
The video, because I think there was some really nice words from DM Milkman, and some really nice advice in that as well, that I think is a bit more eloquently put than anything I've said there. If that's
I think so. And so we're going to play a video. This is one of the submissions when we put the call out for advice. We kind of questioned. Sorry, I should have these to hand. There was 2 questions. I have them here somewhere. What do you think about creator burnout? And then what advice would you give to a GM or player who's experiencing it? So that's what DM Milkman's responding to in this video. And thank you so much for sending it as well. We really appreciate it. It was fantastic and so quick off the mark when we put it out there. And we know that these things take time and effort. So genuinely couldn't be more grateful for the time and effort you put into this.
And say, look, I really want to play with you. Hey folks, DM Milkman here. Creator burnout. It is a thing, whether you're a player, creator, or DM. anytime we put physical and emotional effort into things, no matter how much we love them, eventually it can take a toll. What advice would I give to someone who's experiencing this? Simple. Acknowledge it. Talk about it. Speak to your players, speak to your DM, speak to your team. You have to make these things an actual physical, or not physical, but, you know, spoken thing. That way you can set boundaries. That way you can say, look, I really want to play with you guys, or I really want to have the game and stuff like that, but I just need some time to myself. And that's what you should do. Have time to yourself. Do other things. Take your mind off it. Give yourself that brain space. I hope this helps.
Yeah. It's aside from fixing the audio at the very beginning there. I thought that was a lovely way to sum it all up. And not that that's us closing this conversation, because we will continue chatting about it. But I just thought, what a wonderful way to kind of summarize everything we've been talking about so far and add some more information in there as well.
It's it's not a. Like we said this at the start, it's not a small thing, and it's not. This can be deeply personal, like for the person going through it. And it is that thing of there's no one clear way of defining it, and there's no one clear way of getting out of it.
Yeah. I think that's. So it's why I think, you know, you might be able to tell, I don't prep too much for this show. It helps me keep it a cantrip, because if given the opportunity to work, I will. But I think it's why I've landed on, as we talked about it, and sometimes helps talk things out, why we went to other people to talk first when talking about this topic, not wanting to be just our voices. And then also the entire time kind of saying, if you experience this, you're going to experience it probably slightly different to us, and to try to figure out your maze to navigate. That's not to say that at any point in time, if you are going through something like this, I mean, we were kind of joking earlier, but I am very easy to find on the internet. So you can message me at any point in time. And if I have the energy to respond, I also will. Because I think, like that, sometimes for me, meeting people who aren't in the same headspace as I am helps me sort of lift myself into theirs. And so it's very tough, I think. And you brought up a very good point earlier, Declan, when you were saying, like, I find it very hard to say, no, we're not going to play, and all this guilt. And that's coming from a perspective that only you currently have. And so when you are feeling creative burnout, I think you can sometimes, well, not you specifically, but you in the wider sense, fall into the trap of thinking everyone else also feels like this, and you don't want to put pressure or burden or more work on them. And that's not the case. And I think it is something nice that's come from our kind of mass communication world, is people checking in before they like drop loads of stuff on you. So it's like, hey, before I drop this all on you, are you at a place where I can drop this all on you? And I think that's a lovely, nice conversational piece that I was meant to just make fun of, like, my parents being like, which they haven't learned yet. Thanks for messaging me everything that happens all the time. But I think it's nice. Never beat yourself up if you forget to do it too, because I often forget a lot of the times, in either in my excitement to share something or in the impulse to share it. I'll be like, oh shit, I should have warned or led that up or asked. And most of the time when that happens, the other person's like, it's fine, don't worry about it. You didn't need to check. But yeah, that's a good long way of saying your experience is individual, and so to reach out to others is always an option. I see from Still44, when their game is live streamed, it's extremely tough to ask for time off. I feel so guilty, and I still feel guilty even if it's something like a migraine and not burnout. And I would say a migraine is something that could very easily, when not addressed, lead to burnout. And I think you touch on something that's important there from a creator space, which is, it's not just the people at the table, but the people at the virtual audience table who feel like you're beholden to in some way. To be like, well, if we don't do this, then the people who come here to kind of spend their evenings with us, especially because as we mentioned, like time is so precious in a way. So I'm always so grateful when people are here, either here or watching the VODs. That I do, yeah, I feel the same way. I feel beholden sometimes to this show. Thankfully, this show in particular is one that like doesn't come with that for me anyway. And I'm going to touch on that exact same sentiment in a little bit when I bring up our kind of final last community messages. But before we get into that, I realize I've been talking, and the only segue I can think of is your turn, Declan.
Oh, I wasn't right. No, wow, man. I guess to delve into my own kind of experiences and just kind of just talking about it. I like there was this joke for a long time. Well, Declan does all the I'm the resident D8 dungeon DM, and yes, I am for all of our campaigns. I DM all of them, and for the podcast, I share the editing with a second editor, but I still do about 60%. Maybe again, maybe a little bit more because it's that thing of and not because I don't like the second editor, I don't trust the second editor, I really do, but it's that thing of like, well, that's just easier if I do because I don't want to burden you with it. And they're a wonderful asset to have, and I really appreciate their time. But there's that, and then there's the prepping for it, and then there's hosting it, and that's sometimes hosting the stream. And I'm so grateful when Emma produces the shows, because then I don't have to focus on that. I don't have to deal with that. And my brain doesn't have to worry about, have I got all the OBS stuff settings right? Also, where are my campaign notes? Also, someone said something in chat that I need to react to, and what's the player asking for? And then hosting it physically, because we record in my house. And oftentimes there was that pressure of, I got to come back, I got to get the whole house cleaned, I got to prepare some food and snacks, and then also the setting up the gear, make sure the place is perfect, and taking care of everybody around the table, and all that stuff. And then this is something that thankfully brings me an awful lot of joy. All of it does, but even then, sometimes it can just be too much. It can just be that thing of I know I'm doing too much. I know and for me, a lot of that without oversharing. Oftentimes, I have a tendency to take on work, take on projects, because then it's easier to do those things and concentrate on those things than do some self-care, have difficult conversations, reflect on where I actually am. And that really isn't healthy at all. And that a couple of years ago led to a pretty bad spiral for me. Many years ago, probably closer to like maybe nearly a decade ago at this stage. I am much more self-aware, but there's all of that stuff, and then there's the external factors, the guilt that, well, I'm not spending this time with my husband, the time needed to prepare for a week's worth of classes, to answer students' emails, to look at assignments, set assignments, correct assignments, and then the energy that goes into being in the classroom is enormous. And like, because some people will say, well, like, you only work like 22 hours a week. You only work X amount of hours, and then you're off, and you've all these holidays. I'm like, I spend the bulk of the holidays hibernating and clawing back energy, and then feeling guilty that that's what I'm doing, and then channeling it into another project, channeling it into something else. And I guess it's really funny. I see the TTRPG space, and I see a table with players the same way I see my classroom. And it's that thing of I have to be switched on, I have to be engaged, because if I'm not giving these people 100% of myself, then they won't enjoy it. They won't learn. They won't pay attention. They won't get the lesson. And I'm failing these people. I'm failing my table. I'm failing my class. And sometimes it's coming home after a couple of hours of teaching, and I teach young adults, from young adults up to adults of any kind of age bracket, so that that sort of demographic of just out of high school or secondary school, right up to people who have retired and want to come back to do something else, do something new, return to education, whatever it might be. And I teach very creative subjects, and that's a blessing and a curse. And there are days like being at the table that it all goes wonderfully well, and the energy, the time, the prep, the focus, that payoff is immense. Like as the DM, when a player turns around and says to you, that was the best session we've had, thank you for that session. Like, honestly, the swelling of like joy and pride that comes with, and the sense of fulfillment. What the hell is creative burnout? Like that gone. It's like the cobwebs cleared off, the dust gone, everything. Wow, this worked. This is wonderful. This was fun. That is the same feeling I get in a classroom. That when it hits and you see the idea, you see the concept click for that learner who maybe the week previous or the last couple of weeks it hasn't, and now like that little switch, you just see it. Or you pose a question and you're hoping that one person answers, or one person gives their insight or their opinion, and the whole class want to share. And what was meant to be a question has turned into this other thing where, with proper guiding and structure, the prep you've done for the session, the prep you've done for the classroom doesn't matter, because you've communicated the lesson, you've got the story across, and the people who showed up, the people who are present, have taken something from it. And by howdy, some days I come out of there, like out of work, I come away from a table and I'm on a whole other energy spectrum. It's that thing of like, I am so charged, I'm so higher, like wired, I'm so ready to do the next session, I'm so ready, and that energy is wonderful, and I'm really good at holding on to it, and kind of dissipating it over a couple of days. Like I like to spread it out a little bit. But the flip of that is, and this is I guess it's a double-edged sword, when there is no payoff. And the class aren't switched on, and the table isn't clicking or having fun. That is the weight of that the toll that can have on you. And I mentioned imposter syndrome, and yeah, grappling with that, and then but I put all this time into it, I put all this energy into it, I tried to do something different with it, and it didn't work. Wow. I'm tapped. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. And there's been no return on that energy. There's been no sort of wow. It's like that positive and negative. I put it out. Something has to come back. No matter how big or small, something has to come back to keep you going, to sustain the charge. So, sorry. Now I feel like I've just overshared. My bad.
But you've hit on a really good. Watch it for. It wasn't in any of the sort of feedback or comments or sort of input that people we asked gave, but I've seen it a lot, which is, as the GM, it's not your job to do everything. If everyone just does a little bit, then you share the load and you don't feel creative burnout as much. And the thing is, as much as I genuinely feel like that is true on those sessions where you walk away being like, everything just clicked, or when you're teaching in a classroom, it's like everyone got it, everyone's putting in, all the work I put in didn't feel like it was work at all. The other part of me is being kind of like, to say to be truthful about it makes it seem like this is true, but I suppose to be honest about it is, in a situation where you're putting everything out and there's nothing coming back, it does feel like in that moment it's 100% on, when I'm DMing anyway, on me. So all the advice of, well, if everyone just put their little thing in, doesn't help in those moments. Now, channeling my wife, who's a teacher, in that thing, I know, especially when it comes towards exams, like when you're putting everything out and the energy not coming back, it's like, it's not my exam. Like, I don't know, guys, I'm here. I can just sit on my phone and scroll if you want. Like, to kind of mirror that negative energy back can sometimes be the wake-up call to the group to be like, oh yeah, shit, sorry. Which comes back to our one piece of advice that we've always given on the show, is just communicating. It's helpful.
Just talk.
But it's so tough. Like, in a classroom setting, there is a natural teacher-student where you can kind of get away with that power dynamic to be like, no, guys, you don't get to act like that. In your friend group, that's hard, because while you're in that room and someone is in the role of a storyteller or GM and DM, 5 hours later, 5 days later, you're going to be sitting in the cinema and not in that dynamic. So unless you naturally have the kind of like older sibling energy, it's tough to turn around to your friends and go, sorry guys, we're just not paying attention today? Did no one do their homework? It's like, and sometimes you can jokingly say that and it comes across as like passive aggressive, sort of like, oh, that joke didn't land well. Just seems like that person's genuinely annoyed and not fun to be around. So it's a delicate thing to balance. And I think in those instances, having a group that you can trust, and it brings us into our kind of final, when the group is causing burnout, having a group you can trust means that it's easier to broach a topic to go, I guess we're not feeling it, and that's okay. Like, and almost meeting them at the same energy, but with a space of understanding, of being like, you know what, I'm not even feeling it all that much either. Because sometimes when you are, you can sort of like push through in pure enthusiasm. And it flips the other way as well. Like, I felt it, burnout or just this sort of like dampness that sits over my personality sometimes. It could be the best day, seemingly. Everything I could have worked towards, everything I could have prepped, whether it's in a TTRPG session or something else, it could all be happening. But if I'm feeling burnt out, I don't have the ability or batteries to even acknowledge the joy of the situation. And that's always really annoying, because it's just like, oh, everything I could always have wanted, the plot's working, everyone's having fun. But when you're feeling down like that, it's hard to recognize the good times as much as the bad times. That's it's why it's such an important topic, I think, to speak about, because the more we acknowledge it and talk about it, the more we give it the spotlight that takes away its power. Because, at least for me anyway, if it's only after I acknowledge I'm in a certain mental state that I can pull myself out of it. Because when I'm ignoring the fact that I'm in that headspace, I'll be like being handed an award and I'll be like, I guess this is fine. I don't care. Like, I get so, my thing isn't a voice in my head. My thing is pure ennui sets in. And it makes me tougher to beat around, for sure. There's a couple of responses left to get through, and I want to give everyone because everyone submitted the time and space. I'll leave Neil for last. Neil, who from Fey Earth, messaged in, especially about toxic groups, but I'll get into Jonathan. So Jonathan, I split across two things. So again, those two questions: what do you think about it, and any advice for it? Jonathan was saying, in answer to question one, actually has to do with question two. And acknowledges that very few of us are lucky enough to play games or have that being I think Jonathan's coming from a point of view of a content creator as opposed to just kind of a home game. So with that context going in, very few of us are lucky enough to play games or have that being our primary source of income. So if we're not doing it as a profession, what exactly are we doing it for? And I think myself and Jonathan share that approach of, well, what is this What's the main purpose here?
Yeah.
If it's not for the love of the game or for love of sitting around with friends or just having a laugh, and if it's more for likes or popularity or celebrity, I'd suggest there are easier ways to achieve your goals. I would agree. Personally, I GM as I like to GM, and I'll only ever GM for people that I want to GM for. And these people understand I may need a few weeks off to recharge, then that's cool. So there's never any risk of real burnout. And if they weren't understanding about this, I just wouldn't game with them. Now, having said all that, Jonathan says, I'm old. And one of the benefits of getting old is that you care less and less about what people think about you, which I don't know if I fully agree with that. I think I'll always care what people think about me. I'll never lose it. It's my burden to bear. And then didn't grow up with the bombardment of social media that we have today. And I'm sure Jonathan acknowledges, I'm sure if I did, I'd be every bit as anxious and nervous and insecure as many in today's society. The interweb has made gaming so much more accessible, but it has come as a cost. And to sum up kind of Jonathan's ending, it's finding things that matter. So for Jonathan, it's kind of acknowledging this is a game. I've got family, I've got nature around me, I've got other hobbies, I've other things that I can put my time into. So to take the power away from the pressure of the game, I think is a big thing. I actually think games are more fun when it doesn't come with that pressure as well. And it ties into, I'm going to swip from Jonathan into Mike. Mike wrote a brilliant long response, which I will try my best to sort of summarize as I go through it. It's a good thing to use as a summary before we go into Neil's response. So for following my play in my mind, we've got Jonathan, we've got Mike, and we got Neil. And Mike says, like others have said, I think GM burnout tends to come from either overwork, whether it's running too many weekly sessions or over preparing for sessions, or from dealing with group conflicts like toxic players or infrequent attendance. Both can affect players as well, with over prep being putting hours and hours into backstory and drawings for your character to die immediately. I think both factors probably also hit harder on older gamers. When I was a preteen teen into university gamer, I had more time available to game. I could spend my halcyon pre-internet evenings reading history and mythology as I mined for ideas. Moving into my 30s, 40s, 50s, time became more scarce as realities and responsibilities took up more time. This had a side effect of putting more pressure on a session because, damn it, I wasn't getting to play multiple times a week. For a while, there was maybe gaming once every few months. And then they go on to acknowledge that with the introduction of virtual tabletop where everyone can come together more easily, that definitely loosened that pressure. But I thought that first point of, if this is the only chance we get to play and we've been putting it off for months and this is our game, and it just sucks when it's like we have to postpone it again, I can see easily how that pressure builds up and it leads to either a player or a GM going, well, screw it, I don't even want to play anyway. Like, why am I putting all this effort in? And it goes back to something we said in another episode, which is the prep you put into something, you can reuse, you can do something else. Like, if it's for your friends, no one's going to mind if you run it for a different group of friends, run it at a con, run it for strangers that you meet on the internet. You can kind of run through the same scenario. If you want to just road test it a little bit, that's always a good idea. And then moving on to what to do about burnout, and this is easier to sum up. For over preppers, when it comes to prepping too much, try leaning on guides. There is plenty of resources out there that are free to use. There's plenty of ways to cut your workload. I know for me personally, any sort of like resource or tool shortcut I take only prolongs the anxiety when I get to the session and then look at it and I realize I haven't given this the time I need to kind of live with it. So for me, I don't really use a lot of name generators because if I'm just like, and this person's called Frank Camera, then I don't like, unless it's funny, Frank Camera, I don't have an idea of them and I don't put myself under the pressure of improvising. So sometimes prep helps me not feel burnout because I'm not like, everything has to be brand new and fresh. And I have some of my work done. But there is that just because it doesn't work for me doesn't mean it couldn't work for you. Because as we acknowledge, horses for courses.
Obviously. That's
obviously horses for courses.
Obviously, like there's, I mean, that's
is it
there.
Is it courses? It's courses for horses, though, isn't it? It's not horses for courses.
No, it's horses for courses.
I suppose it's potato for tomato. It's certain courses for certain horses for certain courses. Yeah, you're totally right.
No, sorry, I'm going back to this. I'm just
okay.
We're going back to this because I really don't think you believe me that this is a thing.
No, I do believe you. I just got hung up on which came first. Is
Oh.
it for every course there is a horse? It's the same backwards and forwards. It's a palindromic. It doesn't matter which way you say it. The meaning stays the same, I think.
Yeah, I know, but it's just better if you say horses for courses.
Horses for courses. Okay. From now on, horses for courses. I'll remember it because it's not alphabetical. That's not a dig at the phrase. That's just a genuine way I can remember it.
What did Neil say?
Yeah. Neil, let me find Neil. Neil said, thinking about it, the only time I've ever felt burnout as a GM has been when players were being toxic, not when I felt under pressure running my game. I think this is an area that is often overlooked or even ignored, as GMs are expected to not only run everything, but also be the arbitrators between players when there are problems. And I think that's a nice new, but I think everyone watching along will know the take we have on this already, because we've circled around this point the entire episode and we've been kind of spiraling inwards towards it. But I thought it was a nice way to end on. We talked a lot about internal and end on what happens when the pressures on you are external.
With the dynamic at the table, like, this is, again, and not to make light of it, because that's not easy, you know, and the capacity it takes to be direct and like, there's no other word really, confrontational. You're going to have to face this on. It can take a hell of a lot out, and if you're not looking forward to the session, you're the player, and you're not really clicking with the other players or the characters, or the DM's style isn't working for you, or you're the GM and you're like, they're not really, I mentioned that I'm going for a specific tone, and I don't mind doing a bit of fun and slapstick stuff, but we're going for something serious here. What are you getting out of this? What are you getting? That, because right now all you're getting is stressed, all you're getting is burnt out, all you're getting is worked up, and that's not why you've been drawn to this hobby. That's not why you've been drawn to this space. You've been drawn to it because it fulfills you, it sustains you, it cheers you up, it inspires you, it's fun, it's meant to be fun. So it is that awkward conversation. Hey, so thank you for your time, but this really isn't the table for me. I don't really feel like click, and that's all it has to be. It just that thank you, but and or just thank you. Hey, a couple of good sessions. I really don't think this is I don't think I'm bringing anything to this that works for the group. So I think maybe if you want to find another player or another GM, then let's. I mean, and it doesn't have to be that sort of ultimatum of peace, I'm out. It doesn't have to be that sort of full stop. It can be just that. Ask the questions, raise the concern, and if you take anything from tonight, when it comes to the creative burnout and the conversations we have, you're doing that for yourself. You're doing that to kind of mind yourself, and the payoff that you'll get, if it resolves itself and everyone's like, oh, actually, you know what, you are right. Sorry, you set that out. Our bad. We'll get back on tone. We'll get back on mood. We'll get back on. We are just messing around too much. Great. And then, if not, you have your answer, and you will find another table. You'll find the right group. You'll find the right people. And in the meantime, there are some really wonderful solo TTRPGs out there that will kind of, with no pressure, no audience, nobody else but you and your hobby. There's some great stories out there for you to tell, alone or with friends.
I think that's a lovely it's a lovely way to kind of wrap it all up. When you were talking, there was a situation that I think is quite common, but we haven't touched upon all that often, about kind of groups and how to have those conversations. And I'm going to paint a scenario because I think it's a very familiar one. It's coming up to the holidays, your family and your extended family are in town. Hey, wouldn't it be a great idea? And I'm going to put me in this situation, Ben, to play that game you're always playing. Would you mind preparing something and running something for us? And I go, oh, wow, my family, who I love and adore, want to play this game with me. Yes, absolutely. As that situation happens, and you put all the prep in and you do all that kind of stuff, and then everyone comes and you throw a movie on, and then it's dinner time, and then it's getting late, and you sort of casually mentioned to your siblings or your parents or your cousins that, like, this takes a little while to play, so if we want to start playing, we should probably sit down now. And everyone's like, yeah, we'll get to it. And you spend the day sort of sitting on your prep, and it never happens. Or it does happen, and it's a crunched up, horrible version of the thing you actually wanted. And your family go, yeah, that was fun, I guess. And they all disappear. That situation sucks. And there's no two ways about that. And hopefully it doesn't happen to you. The reason I bring it up is it is a prime precursor to creative burnout. So knowing it's about to happen to more people than we think, I wanted to bring it up as everything we've talked about so far. Keep an eye out for those situations. Keep an eye on what makes you feel better, and often going in with the expectation that this might not get played. And I've used a family as an example, but it happens with friend groups all the time. Oh, we'd really love to play, and everyone seems super enthusiastic about it. And then you actually go for game night. People come over at 7. You're kind of there, and you don't know how to start the game because everyone's still chatting and having a good time. And you sort of go like, "Do you want us to play board games instead?" And they go, "No, we really want to play this game." It's like, great, but when am I going to sit down and play it? In those situations, the only thing that gives me solace is the work and the prep and the things that are placing the expectations that are leading to more negative feelings. That's not in vain. All the kind of TM work you've done can be used again. It can be used with different groups. It can be used at the next family gathering. And in fact, the piece of advice I would give, especially in those situations, is using it as an opportunity when they're going, no, we're ready to play. And you're like, it's pretty late. Use that moment when the attention and the focus of the group are on you to say, this game's pretty intense and it takes a while to play. So I'd love to play with you guys, but let's do it next time. And push it off. Don't force yourself to play a game suddenly because the group who've wrangled you into DMing it are ready to play. And I guarantee if you do that, if you say, I'd love to play this with you guys, it does take a bit of time. It's a little bit of setup. So if we really want to play it, let's play it next time. They'll sit down next time. The ones who want to play. And they'll come up to you. And you can often make the work someone else's job. So if it's a cousin going up, I'm like, we just have an ask around, see who's like really interested in playing and see who's kind of just like happy to be here. Gather 3 of the 4 people who are really interested, and we're going to head to the second room. We're going to start playing. And if someone comes in and says, hey, I wanted to play that, say, oh, no worries at all. We'll probably play this again. We'll join next time. But it's like, but we've got into it. And remember the last time I said this takes a bit of time and effort and we need people to be committed to it? You remember that? That's why we started without you. So sorry. No, her feelings weren't meant about it at all. So it's sort of giving yourself those conversational ins and outs that mean that you're not in an awkward situation where it's too far down the line, you're playing with a toxic group, or the toxic group is toxic because they haven't started playing. You're just waiting for them. And you feel like a little boy again, and small and ignored in a room. And again, this is a made-up situation. So that's...
Ben and I are going to go have a cry after this. We're jogging in the shower after this.
Yes, yeah. We're going to have a quick 10K jog in the shower after this. But find your group, and it's a good starting point. And I promise you, they're right there.
Yeah, I will echo. And Ben and we always try to be mindful of the let's not repeat each other. But that little nugget of, hey, the thing that you worked on, the prep, the notes, the village, the one shot, the adventure. Sometimes running it for a different group is just as rewarding, if not more so, because then you can back up. Wait, why did they pick up on that? The other group didn't pick up on that. They didn't do it that way. They didn't. And it is that thing of, and I've seen this. So some of the things I will often run, and at VentureCon is a good example. I'll often
Mm.
run that for a group of people beforehand to be like, does this work? Is this all right? Are my notes okay? And a game I ran at VentureCon, I'm running for somebody else. But I spoke to them beforehand, like, this is what I did. I don't know if this is your vibe. Does it work for you as a group? And they're like, we're more into the role play and the comedy stuff. Can we do a bit more of that? And I was like, 100%, let's just do that instead. And it's a whole other adventure that I've written, but it was based off of the prep from something else. And even then, the stuff that they sit on a drive, and it is that thing of, you guys want to play? Yeah, sure. Let's just do this. I've got this ready.
Mhm.
Any characters? You can roll them up if you want really quick, but actually, there's a couple of dudes that I have here doing stuff. Normal. So, yeah.
Yep.
I'm stealing Ben's advice and passing it off as my own towards the end.
That's a genuine pretty good advice for Burnout. Just run something that takes no effort for you, and if it's just straight up, it's like you watch big shows. If you watch Critical Role, but you know the people you're playing with have never seen it, run it. They'll never know. They'll never know. And by the time if they ever do start watching something like that, and they do find out, you got them hooked. You got their yours for life. You got them.
They stole it from me.
Dude, make it easy on yourself. Yeah, I had that years ago. I think that's a pretty good spot to end things. And I think it closes out our. Although we'll always talk about creativity and prep and DMing and burnout, these topics have been coming up a lot. But I think it brings a sort of like close to our chats on creativity for the time being as specific topics. We're moving into other stuff as we move into October. A good place to find out what topics are going to come up on the show, to submit questions in advance, to take part, if you'd like to take part, is to find us on social media or on Discord. We're pretty easy to find, so I don't think I need to shout them out. But at D8 Dungeon, at Homebrew Quest, you'll find us both there. And yeah, just one last comment in from chat I see from Zil44, and I think it's a really it's a lovely analogy that ties into TTRPGs. I've learned to never quilt for anyone who does not respect the time and heart I put into it. It's kind of the same for everyone at the table, to understanding about the prep and time committed. That's it. Never quilt for someone who doesn't understand the time or love or effort who goes into it. I suppose we just, yeah. Do you want me to? I didn't prepare any little news thing.
Sorry, I thought you were gonna no, because I was like, will I raid? Will I raid now?
Yeah, why not? Let's raid. I can make one up.
No, there's no pressure. You just you chat. No pressure.
Well, I did want to say, as we get ready for a raid, thank you so much to everyone who did send a message, who sent a video. Thank you to DM Milkman. Please do go and follow them across social channels and on YouTube. Thank you for everyone in chat who shared their stories tonight. It has been an honest to God joy to chat about the kind of creativity that goes into games. And again, I cannot stress enough how I don't mean like as a content creator. I mean anyone who ever plays TTRPGs is bringing a sense of play and imagination to this game. So it's everything we talk about hopefully applies to the universal player and gamer within us all. And if I missed anyone from quotes, or if I butchered the thing you sent in, or if I forgot to credit you properly, I can only offer my cold-hearted apology. No, it didn't come from any sort of like intent, and rather from the obvious things of me not being a professional newscaster and having this stuff down to a T. So blame my incompetence and my ignorance, not anything else. That's anything you want to end? I'm also not that anyone out there needs to know this, but we're recording Necromancing at the weekend, and I honestly can't wait. Speaking of groups that give me energy and not feeling burnout, I am so creatively jazzed for this weekend. It has been, I genuinely don't know what manic energy I'm going to ride your house with, and I can only apologize in advance.
I will let you go for a jog if I need to. No, I can't wait this time. I'm so looking forward to it. I really am. I have a raid ready to go. It's the
Yeah.
Lore Mistress, and they're
Yeah.
doing a solo TTRPG. They're solo journaling, Whispers in the Walls. So we are going to raid their channel. So stick around. We're going to pop in a couple of seconds, and we're back in 2 weeks' time. We will. Yeah, I think. Yeah, we'll see you then.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks,
bye.
everyone.